Okay, let's get started.
Let's get started. If you'd like to make your way down to the gin garden, maybe even move a little bit forward so that you can hear us a little bit better, we promise not to bore you for too long. I do promise.
But there are refreshments.
All right, well, welcome to North of Eden Artisan Distillery. Some of you, I think this is your first visit, so welcome. I'd also like to just recognise that we're actually on Diranjanj country and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome. So, today, I'd like to first of all introduce you to our MC for the day, and this is the one and only Philip, who is otherwise known more professionally as the Martini Whisperer.
That's a long story.
But I'll hand to you to lead.
Thank you, Gavin. Thank you, Karen, and the fine hospitality. I've come down from Canberra especially to be here as an old Kiama boy, and I always love coming back to the coast. And I remembered the last time I was here was we were the very last customers before the infamous lockdown happened way back when. So
That's right. I'd almost forgotten that.
I hadn't forgotten that. So it's wonderful to be back here again after so long. And I do believe this is the first time you've ever hosted something like this.
This is our first event, so please let us know how we went at the end.
Yeah, after a few more drinks, didn't tell them.
Yeah, definitely after a few more drinks.
No, all power to them. By way of quick introduction of myself, so you know why I'm sitting here, I've been an advocate for Australian craft spirits for over a decade now. And so I do independent reviews, I do guest appearances like this, and I like to tell the story of craft producers like Gavin, Karen and their team. The big guys can take care of themselves, I like to say, but the real passion and the innovation, the creativity that's happening right now in the Australian craft speed is amazing. So I was just had a hobby blog, and now it's evolved into something a bit more substantial. At the time, there was about half a dozen distillers in Australia, and now we have something like over 770 gin makers and almost 201 now, vodka makers in Australia, which is just extraordinary in a short pace of time. And shameless plug, they're all listed on my website, which I update every month, so you can find links back to them to so you know. I should also mention before I get going, socials. So this is a world debut of a world amazing product you've just started to appreciate this afternoon. So you're welcome to share it. So you go to on Instagram, socials, North of Eden, yep. Yes. And I'm the Martini Whisperer. So feel free to take some photos and share and tell your friends today about this amazing experience you're having this afternoon. Just by way of routine, we're going to have a bit of a Q&A and chat about the product for about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes or so. Then you get to go back up, enjoy some food, enjoy some lovely cocktails. So here, you'll pace yourself, friends. There are things like a lemon drop, there's a Vespa, I'm going to talk about the Vespa Martini a bit later. Vodka Martini, of course, all featuring, of course, the Oyster Shell vodka. Tapioca, Cosmopolitan, the Black Russian, apple lychee fizz, and vodka soda.
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing shortly, and I think Ruby's already got some glasses and handing them out, is we're actually going to give you the opportunity to taste our vodka neat, which is the way all good vodkas should be drunk. And then at the end of that, we've also prepared a choice of cocktails for you to have, which will be handed out. And then as Philip's just said, then we'll have an open bar where you can also partake in some of the other wondrous ways that you can drink vodka.
It's true.
Vodka.
Let's talk about vodka, shall we? Let's talk about vodka. Now, vodka, I'll be straight up, it can have a bit of a bad press. If you look at the kind of generic vodka branding, it's kind of like bling and the rest of it, and 5 times and triple times distilled. And I come across a vodka out of America a few years ago, and they did diamonds filtration processes, exotic things like that. We're a long way away from that craft, aren't we?
We are.
So for my sins, I often get to be invited as a craft spirit judge, things like New Zealand Craft Spirit Awards or Perth Show. And so you spend a day judging vodka. So what do you look for in a vodka? And the irony is you want purity and pristineness, generally speaking. There's a 100-point system, I won't go into it now, but one of it is the aromas. So you don't want any kind of spirit, you don't want, dare I say it, kind of Smirnoff-y kind of aromatics. didn't say that. You want purity, you want cleanliness, you want aroma, and then you want that to line up directly when you have your first sip, and when you're judging, you have it neat, then you add a bit of water, open up the flavor profile, and then you're looking for finish and cleanliness. So when, I'm not just saying this because I'm here, when they sent me the sample bottle up, I was extremely impressed. Because when you have it neat, what you're doing now, I think what you'll probably notice is, it's no spirit burn there at all, there's no volatility, it's super clean, lovely aromatics, very, very subtle. And then what I get is kind of nice, sort of rich palate, kind of almost a creaminess, which we talked to. Now that's easier said than done, is it not? So let's start at the very beginning. You woke up one night, I'm going to make vodka? Yes, no?
Sort of. So I'd always wanted to make a vodka, but I actually didn't think I'd ever be able to make one based on the sort of distillation gear that I have. So my background is I used to make spirits commercially, so I actually made all the spirit for Smirnoff and
so you're turning for your sins now, right?
Yes, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But when you're making a vodka, usually you use a still which is somewhere between 30 and 50 metres high, so very high. And every 300 mils or so, they'll have a plate. And on that plate, what happens is, as the spirit goes from liquid to vapour, it hits that plate and then condenses. Then it revaporizes, gets to the next one, condenses. Every time the molecule does that phase shift, it purifies itself a little bit. So we've only got 1.5 metres, so it's not very big. But what we've done is I've been trying for some time to actually make a smooth product and hadn't been able to do it, and I was about to actually just give it away. But then I had this idea that if I took the cup shells of the oyster shell, and I upturned them all, and then I stacked the whole column, then each one of those cups sort of mimics what happens at each one of those plates in a much larger column. And the result is you get lots and lots of phase change. And so we still have to triple distill to actually get the product to the level that you're about to enjoy. I hope you're going to enjoy it anyway. We enjoy it. But what it's enabled us to do also, because we get that purification using the oyster shells, and it's a mechanical process that it's giving rather than imparting much to the actual product, we end up not having to filter this product, because you shouldn't filter a good vodka, because when you filter it, you actually take out a lot of the essence of the base spirit, so you lose that lovely sweet note that you actually find in this particular vodka. So that's pretty much it, I think, in a nutshell.
I think it's a bit more complicated.
Or an oyster shell.
It's a bit more complicated than that. Is it a bit of a holy grail then to create... Gin is one thing, and you make wonderful award-winning gins, but you've got botanicals you can play with and flavours you can play with and so forth. Is it harder to make a good vodka because you are looking for that purity?
The thing about vodka is there's nowhere to hide, because you're not disguising it with any other flavour or anything like that, so there's nowhere to hide with a vodka. So if you make a mistake or in your distillation process, it will show through. So it's a much harder spirit to actually make.
So how many prototypes did you make?
Oh, I can't count that high. Let's just say a lot.
A lot. And where did you get your oyster shells from?
Well, we source them locally. So Sue, at the top here, one of our suppliers, but we also take them from other farmers around up and down the coast. But that's all part of our story as well. We believe, being a distillery on the Sapphire Coast, we should be showcasing what the Sapphire Coast has got to offer. So the botanicals we use in our gins, they're all either grown on the farm or we source or forage for them locally. And oyster shells, obviously we're on the oyster coast. Why not use those and work out how to make good products with them?
So we've been doing some homework, and we think this is probably a world first production technique.
I think it is. I don't think anybody's stupid.
Hear it out, yes.
I don't think anybody else would be stupid enough to hand clean 500 oysters just to make a batch of vodka. In talking about that, you've got the opportunity today to help us make the next batch. So you've been eating some oysters. We've got a cleaning station so that you can go and hand clean an oyster, and if you do, you'll get a certificate. You might even also get a discount for your first purchase if you present your certificate, to help us make the next batch. So I encourage everybody to have a go and then get involved in the process and understand what it takes to actually make these products real.
Because that's your raison d'etre of the craft. You said before about place, and I think this is a compelling story. And those who have bars or hospitality outlets who are here today, I think this is what people come to the region. If you're a tourism operator, you know this. They come to this region because they want to hear and see and taste your produce. And to have a product like this, which really speaks of place in a glass, it's a really powerful thing to have, I think. That's what people want.
Well, I just think that's what, like, it's a little bit like wine. We buy wine based on a region and we look for that region to shine through in the wine. It should be the same with spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And how better to do that than showcase it with the various things that we've got, which are abundant in this part of the world.
So let's do a straw poll here. If you've got gin drinkers here, and I know I've mentioned at the top of the day that vodka has a bit of a reputation at times, and this is clearly not just any vodka. Who's a convert now to vodka who wasn't a convert before? There's a show of hands, come on. All of you? Come on, hands up. Okay, well done you. Thank you. One thing that people don't pick up on, though, when the production of vodka is water. Speaking of place or terroir, water is a really critical ingredient in the flavour profile, in the texture you get. I mean, again, this vodka's got beautiful creaminess to it. It's very subtle. What about your water?
Well, our water comes from the Brogo River, which is just down at the bottom of the gully down there, which we pump up. But then we do clean it. We clean it very thoroughly.
That's reassuring.
It goes through sediment filters, charcoal filters. It then goes through a membrane, so reverse osmosis for those technically inclined. And then it gets sterilised. So we clean it right to the nth degree. And we believe that's really important because if you're making a whiskey, when you're making a whiskey, sometimes, well, most whiskey producers actually talk about their water as part of their ingredient because it adds to the flavour. But when you're making a vodka, you don't want it to compete. You want to clean it so that it lets the base spirit to shine. And that's the same with the gin. So that's why we clean the water the way that we do.
You get the results, it all comes together, doesn't it?
It does.
How long, I get this asked, how long does it take to make a batch? And how much do you make in a batch? Ballpark.
So we make around about 400 bottles when we make a batch, but we have to distill this multiple times. So it takes us about a week to actually make about 400 bottles. And it takes about a week to clean the oyster shells. So that's just an ongoing process. And there's Jared standing at the top there. He's one of our master oyster shell cleaners. Give him a round of applause.
Yes, do that.
Actually, give all of our staff a round of applause because I think they're doing a great job. Thanks, Ruby. Thanks, Gigi, wherever you are.
But that's about craft, isn't it? And that's the big companies again work at scale. You're at the other end of that spectrum. Is consistency a bit of a challenge for batch to batch?
So I keep on. We have a lot of people that come here that want to be distillers, and the thing is that anybody can actually distill. The art of distilling is to be able to recreate what you made last time, the time before, the time before, the time before. That's actually where the art is. And that's where it takes, I suppose, the real craft of distilling actually comes in. And one of the things that we're so happy about is that we enter our products into international competitions because there's two recognised competitions, one in London, one in San Francisco. And the reason we do that is, one, to make sure that we're actually world class in our standard, but two, to make sure that we're consistent. And the thing that I can be really happy about is that we've never entered a product into either of those competitions where we haven't medalled.
Which is no small thing. That's amazing. That's an amazing achievement. And just as an insight, as a judge, to give you how that kind of works, people think it's really good being a vodka judge or a gin judge. You think you kind of end up on the turfs by the end of the day. You have about 5 anonymous spirits in front of you every 20, 30 minutes. There's usually 4 or 5 of you, different life experiences. Some are hospitality people, some are distillers themselves, some are like independent people like myself. And then you rate them by a score of 100, 20 for nose, 20 for clarity, and so it goes. And then you write down your notes, and then you sit around together after you finish that particular flight, and you go, number 1, I gave it 60, you gave it 80, what's that about? And you kind of harmonise your scores with your viewpoints, and you kind of arrive at a happy agreement of what that spirit should be. Because sometimes you may recognise it, because you've had it before somewhere in shape or form, even though there's no indication of what that spirit happens to be. So it is a really impartial process, and if it wins a particular class, it might go through to another, like a best of best. That's where you see things like double gold in San Francisco awards and things like that, when it's won that class and then goes on to something else again. So to win those sort of accolades in those sort of forums is really significant, because it's not just pay your money and chuck it in and every child gets a prize. That's not the case at all. No. And so from here to there and back again is quite the story. Yeah. So what we're going to do now, I'll give you a little break or refreshments. So in the next half an hour or so, we're going to have some bite to eat, get some refreshments. Then I'm going to bring you back, and I'm going to be talking about all things martinis and craft a martini for you, inspired by this lovely vodka. Okay. One more thing.
And just before we break, I just want to thank everybody that's come along. You may look around and go, hey, I know a lot of these people, and I hope you do. The thing that I'd like to say is thank you for your support. You're all in businesses in this region just like us. The only reason any of our businesses succeed is because we support each other. And I just want to thank you just at the outset for all your support to date, and thanks for coming.
Awesome.